The kingdom of Melcones was once a prosperous land, ruled over by King Charles Mallory Melcones from the splendor of his royal palace in the capital city of Mallory. On the surface, Melcones appeared as a picture of order and tradition, with the king presiding over an intricate web of noble houses that maintained control over their territories. However, beneath this veneer of stability lurked corruption that had taken root long ago. While the king maintained a facade of strength from his lofty throne, true power had gradually shifted to the nobility over generations of weak rulers. They abused their stations to inflict suffering on the common people for their gain, engaging in an array of illicit schemes and enterprises. Chief among these was the slave trade, where the oppressed beastman peoples were regularly kidnapped and sold into lives of servitude and abuse. The religious institutions provided further cover for such injustices. Claiming dominion over spiritual matters in the name of the god Ethel, the church had become bloated and corrupt, a leech that drained citizens of wealth through indulgences and superstitions. In reality, they turned a blind eye to the crimes of their noble patrons or even partook in more unsavory dealings beneath their pious robes. It was in this world of imbalance and shadowy misdeeds that Prince Dimitri, the second son of King Charles, was born into the royal household. From a young age, Dimitri displayed a keen intellect and drive that marked him for greatness. But it also made him a threat, especially to his elder brother Prince Zelos, who saw the throne as his divine right. Dimitri's relatively carefree life in the royal palace came to an abrupt end when his beloved mother Mary, a consort to the king, was framed for ties to the mysterious cult known as the Children of Emeri. Though Mary vehemently denied such accusations before a sham tribunal, she was put to death before Dimitri's eyes through Zelos' machinations and the nobility's influence. Bereft and terrified, the young prince was forced to flee into the forests surrounding Mallory as his own false execution loomed. It was there that Dimitri's path first crossed with the noble knight Sir Carlos, who took pity on the boy and rescued him from certain death. Carlos brought Dimitri to the encampment of the growing Beastman Liberation Army, led by the formidable warrior Scar the Silent. Among this band of oppressed peoples and their human allies, Dimitri adopted the name Emeri and dedicated himself to training, determined to one day clear his name and avenge his mother's unjust death. But old habits died hard, and Emeri's arrogance stemming from his royal upbringing caused conflict until he was humbled by shared hardship with his new comrades. It was through these trials that Emeri first opened his eyes to the unforgivable crimes against humanity taking place in the very kingdom he had once called home. Witnessing the injustices and oppression with his own eyes, Emeri resolved to help the Liberation Army dismantle the systems that enabled such suffering, through any means necessary. He trained relentlessly under Sir Carlos' tutelage, developing both his martial skills and strategic mind. Through increasingly bold raids and missions to sabotage the slave networks, Emeri proved himself a valuable asset as the army grew bolder in their attacks against the establishment. Over the next few years, Emeri dedicated himself body and soul to aiding the Liberation Army's crusade. Through daring operations, he helped free countless slaves and gather crucial intelligence on the scope of corruption that had taken root. Emeri learned that the slave enterprise was just one face of a far more insidious conspiracy, that the nobility and church had worked in tandem for generations to oppress any who did not fit their narrow vision of order. It soon became clear the Beastman peoples were targeted specifically, deemed a threat due to their animalistic traits in a society that prized conformity. Through the slave markets, they were abducted, abused, and even sacrificed in the cult's unholy rituals that the authorities conveniently turned a blind eye to, all to appease the power-hungry whims of those in the shadows who pulled the kingdom's strings. Emeri grew close with many in the Liberation Army, but none so much as Scar's daughter Shiva. An equally skilled warrior, she helped Emeri come to terms with his turbulent past and the guilt of all he had endured. Together they strengthened their resolve to dismantle the rot that had taken hold in Melcones for generations, through any means necessary. However, the road was fraught with setbacks. During a disastrous failed mission that nearly wiped out the army, Sir Carlos gave his life protecting Emeri from danger. Bereft by loss once more, Emeri hit his lowest point plagued by guilt until Shiva's compassion lifted his spirit. Meanwhile, Forces were aligning elsewhere that would change Melkoni's destiny forever. Emeri's long-lost sister Princess Rhea had not forgotten her family in the wake of their framing. From her position in the royal court, she quietly worked to build resistance by turning sympathetic nobles to her cause. Rhea provided crucial intelligence to Emeri and the Liberation Army, helping fill in missing pieces of the conspiracy they faced. With new understanding and purpose, Emeri rejoined the army, which was now led by the formidable Shiva. Together with Rhea's growing faction, the time for a coordinated revolution was at hand. Exposure of the nobility's corruption sparked a kingdom-wide populace uprising that toppled one tyrant after another. In a climactic duel, Emeri finally confronted Zelos and defended the innocent while refusing to become a killer like his brother. With the last obstacle removed, the liberation of all slaves was secured across Melkoni's. Deeming that his sister is more fit to rule, Emeri handed over the throne to his sister. Rhea ascended the throne as queen, vowing sweeping reforms to establish equality and justice long denied to her people. The long road had at last redeemed Emeri's name and fulfilled his duty to his people. Freed from the burdens of his royal past, he was able to find peace and happiness with his love Shiva by his side. Through their example and Rhea's progressive leadership, a new dawn of freedom had risen over the kingdom of Melkoni's. The shadows of the old world were banished, as were the noble families and cult that had inflicted generations of suffering. In their place emerged a brighter future, where all peoples were equal under law. Emeri's journey, though filled with trials, had transformed not just himself, but an entire land. His was a tale of rebellion, revolution, and reform that would echo through the ages as a testament to the power of a righteous cause and the indomitable spirit of those who fought oppression. In the new Melkoni's that emerged, no soul would ever know the cruelty of bondage again.